when I look with the people I grew up around, I mean, most of the women were nagging like wives. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Andrew Wilson and Coach Greg Adams debated. Now, I've had both of these guys on my show. I'm a big fan of both of them. Andrew Wilson is a 304 destroyer. He goes on whatever podcast and he just cooks these 304s daily. Now, CGA has a channel. I think he's got like 500,000 subscribers. I don't know. He's got some subscribers. And he has been talking about men's rights and men's issues and red pill concepts for years. I would say he's one of the most original like content creators in the space. He's a lot of original concepts. I've learned a lot from him. I'm guessing I'm going to lean more towards CGA on this debate, but we'll see who makes more valid points. And it's on Digital Social Hour, that podcast. So let's
suit. Like, what was the
Coach?
The community of America, most of the better communities that have safety, good children, good schools, are typically centered around marriage. However, marriage has not progressed to the point where men could be.
let me go back a little bit. Let's see.
tequila is awesome. Yeah.
Let me go check for you.
Some of that and soda. Yeah.
You want anything, Greg?
No tequila from me.
When women debate, it's always like, I feel. When men debate, they have notes. They're ready to go. You think it's a setup? Who do you think's getting set up? I don't think so. I think these are both equally matched, like, people in terms of like their knowledge.
Has not progressed to the point where men could be.
How did I keep missing?
Some delays. We got Andrew here versus Coach Greg Adams, aka the Free Agent Lifestyle. We're going to talk about today, is marriage worth it for men in the West? So let's get into some opening statements. Who wants to start off?
Yeah, man, marriage is a great institution. It was an institution that built the community of America. Most of the better communities that have safety, good children, good schools, are typically centered around marriage. However, marriage has not progressed to the point where men could be safe legally, and a lot of men have experienced tremendous damage, collateral damage as a result, and it has led to broken families, a lot of broken hearts, simply because the laws are not positioned to benefit both people in a divorce. Therefore, you have no-fault divorce. You have opportunities for women to use the courts against men. And as a result, men have seen 1, 2, and 3 generations of men getting harmed, their grandfathers, their fathers, their uncles, their brothers getting harmed by this. So Generation Z men are not positioning themselves for a positive marriage. So at this particular point, if someone asked me, would I recommend marriage for them, and they were in a certain position in life, they weren't established, I would say no. There's no benefit for the person to get married today.
Got it. Your response, Andrew?
Yeah, I didn't hear any anti-marriage arguments. I heard anti-divorce arguments. So I'm with you on divorce, 100%.
Stream over.
And
but you agree.
But it's a good thing that the topic isn't on divorce, it's on marriage. And it seems like you agree with my proposition then. And the proposition is that marriage, quote, is a great institution.
Yep.
And that right now your concern is that men can't be safe in marriage, but that's not actually what you're saying. You're not saying men can't be safe in marriage. They can. You're saying that they may not be safe in divorce. So I have a counter proposition for you. My counter proposition is, what if it's the case that you can use religious marriage institutions without the state? And then we add the ecclesiastical structure of the marriage. That's what always kept them together anyway, before the state was ever involved. So what if instead we use the ecclesiastical church, the structure of the old churches? That would be Catholicism and Orthodoxy, where you see the...
Okay, so I am going to have a different position than Andrew on this. I grew up, then I just have to go off of my experience, okay? And I grew up in a pretty Catholic area. I have cousins that were really, really Catholic. And I do not see that as a deterrent to terrible marriages and divorce. I mean, even if I look at like my grandmother and her friends, I'm not trying to talk trash on them, but I don't really, like, I remember when I was a kid, and spending time with my grandma and her friends. And I remember thinking that they sounded like 18-year-olds. And I'm just not sure. I think they had more children, but I'm really not even under the impression that that generation was very different. I think they just had more kids because they kind of had to. I mean, my grandma, like, they lived on a farm. So, yeah.
The lowest divorce rates because the community puts pressure on the women to act right. That's what they do. Right now, the state applies no pressure on women to act right? You can just go and file whatever you want, get a divorce, and go be banging the neighbor by the next night. We totally agree on that. But to say that we should abandon marriage is silly. It seems like you're completely pro-marriage. You're just anti-divorce. So why wouldn't you just throw your weight behind institutions where the divorce rate is the least and you have an ecclesiastical structure which can be appealed to assist with that? That's what makes no sense to me.
My response to that is if we're fifths, we beat all drunk. All right. So that's a scenario that just isn't present.
Can you explain the analogy for me?
Yeah. Again, I want to be respectful because I really respect both of them. So I'm trying to be respectful when I go about this. As most of you know, I have been fighting on the front lines of the simp epidemic for years, but I need to tell you about a quiet weapon being ratcheted up against men that is rarely talked about. It's not just the relentless anti-masculinity propaganda and OnlyFans hoes causing the societal issues that we discuss on this show. Did you know that the average city's tap water contains trace pharmaceuticals and endocrine disruptors? This often includes estrogen from birth control. The average adult consumes a credit card worth of plastic every single week. That's 5 grams of plastic a week on average. So it's no wonder that the average male's testosterone is half of what the average was 50 years ago. Testosterone levels decline 1% a year, and without a course correction, we are headed towards extinction. No matter how based you are, you need to be naturally boosting your testosterone. My friends at Choq, CHOQ.com, are on a mission to save mankind from extinction by boosting your vitality. Choq's Male Vitality Stack contains premium and potent herbs clinically studied to naturally boost your testosterone levels, sperm count, and overall vitality. Just one of the many ingredients in the Male Vitality Stack was studied in double-blind human clinical trials to boost total testosterone 20% in 90 days. When you boost your testosterone, you'll have more mental clarity, you're more capable of making decisions and taking risks. Having high testosterone will also affect your pheromones, so women will find you more attractive subconsciously. Get the Choq Male Vitality Stack right now on Choq.com. That's CHOQ.com. Use my name Pearl as your coupon code and you'll get 25% off site-wide on Choq.com. That's CHOQ.com. My name Pearl is the discount code. Again, what they're going to do, and a lot of people try to do, is they want to dictate your reality for you. So they'll say you could go to this church, you could go to these studies, you could go to this, this, and this, and therefore you're going to mitigate the risk on these things. And again, I really do think that the best way to come to conclusions is what you see with your eyes, because you're going to be easily manipulated if anybody can put a study or data in front of you. And they say that's reality, not, a clip on TV. That's your reality, not what you see with your eyes. And again, we could talk about the flaws and the data I think Andrew's going to use. But regardless of that, when you say there's like religious women and religious institutions, I kind of have the privilege of growing up in a pretty Catholic area, and I can tell you it's no different. I was one of 10 kids. I'm from a family that I would say is more on paper traditional than a lot of places. My parents were together 30 years, but when I look with the people I grew up around, I mean, most of the women were nagging, like bitching wives. So, yeah, and I'll go into, I think I'll react to one of my old videos because, do you know what? I'm just not here. I'll keep going.
Well, if we use if, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If we say, if we have a situation where this is present, then this would work. Well, that makes sense. If we had that,
it would work right now.
Well, it doesn't necessarily work because, and I'm going to tell you why, because a woman can go to a divorce attorney and they can simply just say, hey, listen, it was a off the cuff, off the state divorce, but you got married within a certain state or she filed in a certain state, so therefore the divorce goes on.
No,
Absolutely,
okay.
yes.
Well,
Listen, I've been to with the divorce attorneys, and what they'll tell you is, hey, listen, you can get married in the ritual, you can get married in the orthodoxy, you can get married off record, but if she files and that woman is hell bent on saying we got married, I don't care if it was a ceremony where we walked on coals with our feet bare. That's considered a marriage. You also have common law. You have a lot of other ways for that woman to establish marriage.
How does
And
your way eliminate common law?
I don't have any way to eliminate common law.
So
what
then-
I have is a way for men to avoid
Well, then the
being
argument's
used
silly.
no, the argument's not silly. So here's what you have. You have a if proposition, which doesn't exist for most men. Most men aren't religious. Most men aren't.
And most men aren't going to want to do like I would say most men in my experience have not had overly positive experiences with religious organizations. So I don't think most men are wanting to be overly religious. Like what percent of Gen Z even attends church? And I think the challenge is, see, men attend church, let's say weekly. I understand where Andrew's coming from because I used to kind of, oh, that's actually higher than I thought. 46 of Gen Z men report attending church the past week. Oh, good job, Gen Z. What about for context that is higher? It's actually higher than I thought. Here. Andrew's kind of talking about idealistic, like, so he's saying the world would be better. It should be this way. And CGA is talking about what is. And this was kind of a problem when I first got into the red pill. I came from a pretty religious background. So I think I had a lot of those similar talking points, right? And it's kind of goes back to when I used to say women shouldn't vote. Well, it doesn't matter what women should or shouldn't do. Women shouldn't be whores. Well, we are. We do vote. So, like, if you have to make a decision today, you have to make a decision with the information that we do vote. And I kind of go back to like the business example. If you're a business owner and you say, when is this going to get done? Like, when is this religious theocracy going to get done? And the person you're talking to says, well, maybe someday in our lifetime. And you're like, well, okay, well, I have to fire today. I have to, make decisions today. And what you get is the tradcons. Not that I think Andrew's completely in that realm, but they kind of say, well, this is how it should be. And I found in my experience, those are kind of useless conversations. You could argue they maybe move the needle. Like, I think women not voting is more mainstream. Since I did it, you could argue maybe there's repercussions down the line. But that's still a different conversation than like predicting and what is,
Aren't looking to be under a religious orthodoxy, so it doesn't apply. So you're taking a moral standard or a religious standard to apply to people who aren't under that veil.
So let's start with a couple of things you said which are fundamentally untrue. Most men are religious, in fact, including in this country. Most of them, not some of them.
But they're not religious.
Hang on. I didn't interrupt.
I understand, but maybe just take that point. Most aren't under your religion.
Okay.
We can agree with that.
So here's the thing.
Yeah, actually, that's a better question. What percent of Gen Z men are Catholic and Orthodox? And I have to say, I don't really see a difference in the behavior of Orthodox and Catholic men. I think they're just as simpy. I really don't. I know they try to sell you on this. I can only go based on what I have seen. Okay, let's go back to here.
But Catholicism and Orthodoxy is growing rapidly. And if it's the case that the ecclesiastical structure is already there, which it is, right? If you're going to cohabitate with a woman, the thing that you're offering right now is common law marriage anyway, if there's cohabitation at all. You're not protecting anybody.
I don't think CGA, I think he says to stay away from women. I think he knows that most men will enter some sort of long-term relationship, but I don't think he suggests it.
From that, at least under my model, it gives an ecclesiastical structure that's designed to prevent divorce by applying community pressure. That was the way it was always done. Apply the application of community pressure within the confines of the woman's social circle. Right now, do you agree with me, for instance, that many divorces happen because women like to yap. So you get a freshly divorced woman and she's free. You go, girl, girl power. And she starts talking to her little friends and she starts telling them how liberating it is and how great it is and this and that. And this is why when women have divorced friends, their likelihood of divorce actually rapidly increases. It's for this
I
reason.
agree with that. I agree.
Divorce is contagious.
So if it's the case that this social contagion is eliminated because now we have an ecclesiastical structure, an ecclesiastical authority, which won't grant it because you get ostracized from that social group through excommunication, for instance, or not being able to participate anymore with that community.
I don't see that as a deterrent because there's always going to be women that are still like, there's always going to be the simps and the women that still deal with those women, like pretty much always. I mean, you could argue that it could happen, but how long have they been Orthodox? Because I don't know. I think you have a different perspective when you've seen a religion over like a 10 to 20 year period. Because a lot of the people that you didn't think would get divorced, they end up getting divorced. Yeah, so marriage has no benefit to any man.
That's an application of a serious and significant social pressure, which can do the very thing you want. Bring back that great institution, absent the state, and it avoids this whole problem of common law marriage. Because if it's the case that you can be common law married anyway, inside of a state, and they can, get grounds for divorce on that anyway, then we actually need to have some social pressures to prevent them from doing that. So it sounds like we agree marriage is awesome for men. Divorce is terrible for them. So it seems like we should be attacking the divorce structure here, and it doesn't seem like you actually have anything to do that other than just avoid the thing that's great for you, because this other bad side effect could happen.
I think it's, maybe Andrew does, but I don't think he does one-on-one coaching. So you kind of have to have a different perspective when, because again, like if it's make your wife religious, it's like, I don't know. Hold on. I'm gonna listen more before I talk. Women, right? Thank you for the birthday wishes.
Sure, that's
So
like
why don't
smoking
we-
cigarettes.
So why don't we attack the bad side effect when we have the mechanism to do it? It's not if, we can do it now.
Okay,
right
so
this
like
second.
smoking cigarettes is the same analogy you're saying. Okay, here, cigarettes in this situation, we obviously know it has negative side effects, so you would avoid it. Now, here's the issue that I have with it. It sounds great on paper, but we can't travel to the land of make-believe. It sounds great. The majority of people probably wouldn't do it. And if you ask a guy, which this is an important part, they're not even prepared to even talk about that. They don't even know what divorce laws are. So you're asking.
Okay, Andrew doesn't do coaching. He does put a $15 paywall behind his debates. Okay, blah blah blah. We're not trying to roast him. So, but and the reason I mentioned this is you kind of get in a different mindset. So I'll give you an example. There was an e-girl. She watches this, so she's gonna know who she was. I saw her do a reaction that said you should be loyal to men during the talking stage. And I think that sounds really good. But I said, well, it depends. How long have they been talking? How often is he seeing you? Because I've seen women that are single because they're loyal to men that are never going to date them. So, I'm like, if he's seeing you once a month, no, don't be loyal to him. Go on more dates. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. Like, you can't put all your eggs in that basket. Maybe if he ups it later. Okay, no slander of Andrew or CGA. This is me. We're reacting to the debate. We attack ideas, not people.